On a quiet May evening in Florence, Alabama, 38-year-old Autumn Strickland vanished without a trace, and days later, a grisly discovery would shock the entire community. Human remains found smoldering in a backyard burn barrel. Those remains are believed to be Autumn's. What began as a missing persons case soon unraveled into a disturbing tale of a stranger murder, involving a car chase, a deadly impact, and an attempted cover-up by fire. The following is a detailed account of this case, from Autumn's disappearance to the arrest of her suspected killer, and everything in this video is alleged at this point. And I pieced it together through police reports, court documents, and media coverage, but it's important to talk about. Autumn Paige Strickland was born October 7th of 1986 in Florida to Paul Herbert Mack Jr. and Lisa Franks Mack. She was originally from South Florida, where her love for the outdoors truly began. She loved boating, fishing, and definitely had the type of personality that would leave an impression on everyone she met. Autumn eventually obtained her bachelor's degree in advertising from the University of Alabama, where she split her time. Alabama is also where she ended up marrying Jeffrey Strickland when she was 20 and Jeffrey was 22. They were married on January 2nd of 2007, and that's also the year that Autumn became a property manager at Graceland Apartment Complex in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where she was managing over 200 units, and that was another one of her passions: real estate and flipping houses, something her mother Lisa was also involved in. But Autumn was into everything. She was also a personal training director, selling personal training contracts for Northridge Fitness in Alabama in 2011. But in 2012, she added mother to her accomplishments. Autumn and Jeff welcomed their baby boy Lane Michael Strickland into the world on July 22nd of 2012. Autumn was known as a loving and wonderful mother, showing her son off all the time in cute photos on Instagram, where she went by Autumn Paige Official. Now, things might not have worked out between her and Lane's father, but Autumn didn't let that slow her down. She was a very ambitious woman, and her pictures on Instagram show a mother who absolutely loved and adored being a mother. Pictures of her and Lane on the beach together, Lane at the helm of a boat with a backwards cap on, just like his mommy would wear. Posing together at the pumpkin patch, on a camel's back, you name it, they did it together. Autumn would caption the photos with things like, "There is never a night that goes by that I don't thank God for the love of my life." She would say, "How lucky am I?" You could tell she loved that little boy so much. But in mid-April of 2017, she got the most tragic news. 4-year-old Lane was rushed to the emergency room, and the prognosis wasn't good. It was a parent's worst nightmare. Lane had a very bad infection in his brain, as well as brain hemorrhaging, and doctors informed his parents, Autumn and Jeff, that he had a rare form of cancer that I myself am probably going to pronounce incorrectly, but I'm going to do my best. Rhabdomyosarcoma, which affects less than 350 people per year. They were, of course, completely devastated by this news. And on top of that, their insurance was fighting them on every medication that this little boy needed, one that cost them over $550 a week out of pocket. Now, this came out of nowhere. They had no idea what to expect for their only child, and I can't even imagine how devastating that would be. Our children are so special to us. Can you imagine as a parent? And knowing this happens frightens me as a parent, because he looked healthy. He looked like everything was fine. He was only 4 years old. No child should ever have to go through this, and no parent should ever have to go through this either. Now, a GoFundMe was set up, and all of Autumn's friends rallied around Lane and her for support. Autumn also showed off a tattoo of Lane's name that she got on top of her shoulder, and soon he was undergoing cancer treatments, chemo, and radiation. All the updates were posted to their GoFundMe, along with pictures of sweet little Lane. One update from Autumn's friend Nico, who organized this entire fundraiser on Autumn's behalf, said, "If you know Lane, you know he is the sweetest, most outgoing little boy on the planet. His smile will light up the room. It broke my heart visiting him at Joe DiMaggio's Children's Hospital, covered from head to toe in bruises, still smiling. I love this little boy with every bit of my heart. Please, please help take some of the burden off of his parents. They are both at the hospital and not working to be by his side. It could be weeks, even months, before they can leave the hospital. Thank you so much for any help you can give." Nico also said, "I will be updating everyone on his condition as he's currently in surgery. His parents are so grateful for any help and asked to please not be contacted at this time. They're focusing on Lane's health and dealing with all of the doctors and will be in touch soon. As you can probably expect in a situation like this, the donations were pouring in. They raised $27,000 of the $60,000 goal. Autumn posted a picture of Lane, and he had no hair and was wearing a medical mask, and he was among her friends. She said, "They say that superheroes don't exist, but in my crew, they're alive and well." Everyone was rooting for Lane. The weeks went by and then a month, and Autumn kept updating on her Instagram. She posted a picture with her and Lane, and it said, "We fight every day, and some days it's harder than I ever let anyone know, but I checked myself because I know without him, there will not remain a me." I personally feel that so deeply, and the hashtags almost brought me to tears. She hashtagged, "God, I beg you, Mom won't live without you, ride or die." And on July 18th, Autumn posted again on Instagram. She said, quote, "Dear God, please, please let the love of my life beat this shit. He is the sweetest, kindest, and most considerate, smart, and hilarious little boy in the world. And without him in this world, everyone loses. He literally makes everyone want to be better in some way, sweeter, more patient, kinder, happier, more grateful, or just a better person. He's the magic that we hardly ever get the joy to see in this life. I beg you, day and night, but please, please don't take him." That to me is gut-wrenching. Autumn, like so many parents, was powerless, just standing beside and watching her child deteriorate, going through treatment after treatment, hoping that something would change and that something would miraculously work. But then tragically, one day before his 5th birthday, Lane passed away on July 22nd of 2017. It's almost unfathomable to even think that someone so young and innocent could be taken like that. And Nico updated everyone a couple days later on the GoFundMe page saying, 2.5 months after being diagnosed with brain cancer, the sweetest boy in the world gained his angel wings. The cancer was just too strong for Lane's little body. As you can imagine, everyone is heartbroken. Please keep his family in your prayers. And remember what an amazing little boy he was. He touched the lives of so many people, and on Sunday, he would have been 5. Thank you for everyone's prayers, kind words, and donations. Until we meet again, little warrior. End quote. I don't know how a person goes on after a loss like that one, but somehow Autumn did. It wasn't until over a month later that she began posting again. And some people might look at that and think, aren't you grieving? But some people grieve in that way, by getting out there, doing things with friends, having a support system, and trying to have some normalcy in their lives again. Nothing could bring back her son. She had to move forward. And by November, she posted a picture collage of her and Lane saying, quote, "There is not 1 minute of the day where I do not miss every freaking ounce of you or stop missing my best friend and the love of my life. I miss you so much, Ninja. I hate being in this life without you. You will always be the best thing that ever happened to me, and I'm so grateful that I somehow got to be your mama. But I'm also so angry that someone could take my whole world away from me and the best thing that ever happened to this world. You were the magic, the kindest, sweetest, funniest, happiest, most thoughtful little boy in the world. And the world just feels so wrong without you. I carry you with me every second, every minute, or every day. I will never stop praying to be back with you one day and never stop loving you with every ounce of my soul. I love you to the moon and back and the whole wide world." End quote. And of course, among Autumn's pictures like that, there were also pictures of her with friends, going boating, doing what she loved, fishing, smiling, and trying to put the past behind her. But you know, that was impossible to do. It really goes to show you, you can't possibly know someone from what's put on social media. I think we all know that by now. And later in February of 2018, Autumn posted a picture of Lane again, and she said, quote, "I can't do this, Ninja. I need you back. Without you, there is no me. I would give anything in this world to have 5 more minutes with you. You will always be the best thing that ever happened to me. And one day, I'm going to hold you in my arms again and literally never let go. I love you to the moon and back and the whole wide world." End quote. Autumn would continue to post these kind of pictures and collages and memories of her son every so often, probably because it's so hard not to think about her baby boy. Through all of this, Autumn was still moving forward. She was a branch operations manager for Regions Financial in 2013, and then she was back in West Palm Beach, working for CBS 12 News, and she did that for 11 years. Her LinkedIn said she was an experienced marketing executive specializing in broadcast television, 77 digital marketing products, Google Analytics, advertorial content, commercial production in-house, job recruitment, marketing, and social media marketing. She said, I can be your company's one-stop shop and simplify your marketing efforts completely. I pride myself on thinking outside the box and coming up with unique ways to brand your business and get you the leads you desire. She said she was a strong sales professional with a bachelor's degree focused in advertising from the University of Alabama, and she would love to help your business grow. She was also helping her own business grow at the time. She created her own clothing line in 2018 called Loving Lane, and that was in honor of her son. She started using her advertising and marketing skills to market her clothing on Instagram and beyond. And eventually she met Jason Landsman, and in 2023, Autumn welcomed a baby girl into the world. Now, usually I would withhold her name for privacy reasons, but it is already out there, and we'll be talking about that a little later. But her name is Aspen Olivia, and wow, she is a beautiful baby. You know, sometimes you just see a baby and you say, oh my gosh, that baby looks like they could be on the cover of a magazine, or a Gerber baby, like we used to say in the 80s and 90s. You just look at her and she's got her mama's big blue eyes, and she looks a lot like Lane as well. And she became Autumn's world. I'm sure you can imagine after losing her son, you can tell how much joy this little girl brought to Autumn's world. She would show her off on Instagram, tickling her in videos and posting all kinds of cute milestones on Facebook and social media, even calling her a baby model and captioning one of the photos with, I have been so blessed to not have one, but two loves of my life. She is everything. And Autumn even used the hashtags Gerber baby, my best friend, love of my life, and cutest baby ever. And I have to agree, one of the cutest babies I have ever seen. So things were actually looking really great for Autumn at this point. She was living in Alabama, and she was flipping houses and also a property manager and landlord, splitting her time between Decatur and Florence, Alabama. Wherever she went, Autumn was able to make friends, and they described her as happy, bubbly, and loyal. You could call her and count on her anytime. She was always fun and a great friend and very easy to get along with. But with everything I'm telling you that's positive, you know that you're listening to a story that doesn't end well. And by 2025, 38-year-old Autumn was living in Florence, Alabama, and was renting out a house there the past 2 years. Her neighbors knew her very well. They would remember her walking around the neighborhood with a backwards hat on and a smile on her face everywhere she went. Those that knew Autumn said that she would befriend anyone, and within 5 minutes of meeting her, she would do anything for you. But one night changed everything. It was May 16th, 2025. Autumn was visiting downtown Florence with friends, and she checked into the Strickland Hotel Friday evening. Now, it's very similar to her last name. Her last name is Strickland, and this hotel was the Strickland. And after checking in, she was seen at a hotel bar called the Boiler Room, where she was having some drinks. Now, this is a popular area for the University of North Alabama college students. Lots of bars and restaurants, fun places to hang out, walking distance from the school's campus. Now, Autumn and a group of others left the bar around 1:50 a.m., now into May 17th, walking to their cars, parked on Northwood Avenue close to the hotel. But then Autumn disappeared. Her friends and family lost contact with her after that night, but they knew she would never leave her baby alone, who was waiting for her with her mother. Of course, concern grew quickly. When they couldn't get in touch with her, they started asking friends and even posting on Facebook with information about where they knew she had been last and her description. She was Caucasian, with green eyes, blondish brown hair, 5'4" and 110 pounds. And by the early morning on Sunday, May 18th, when there was still no word from Autumn, she was officially reported missing to the Florence Police Department. Authorities classified her as a missing endangered person, noting in their alerts that she may be living with a condition that may impair her judgment. This suggested that Autumn had a medical or a mental condition that made her especially vulnerable, a detail that added a lot of urgency to the search. Family, friends, and the police began scouring the area for clues, circulating her description and her last known whereabouts. The community hoped for the best, but as the days passed with no word from Autumn, fears of foul play began to mount. There were posts stating, "We need your help in locating Autumn Page Strickland. She's 38 years old, and at this time, we believe she's endangered." She was last seen leaving the area of the Strickland Hotel on Court Street around 1:50 a.m. on May 17th of 2025. She was last seen wearing a black tank top, jean shorts, and flip-flops as she left the boutique hotel's vicinity, presumably heading home or to her car. Because they knew where she had been, the police started pulling security camera footage that showed Autumn just before 2 a.m. on May 17th, walking with some acquaintances near the Strickland Hotel on North Court Street. They saw her wearing that black tank top and jean shorts, the same outfit she had posted in a selfie to social media just hours before this. In the days immediately following her disappearance, Florence police detectives worked around the clock, trying to piece together her last movements. Tips from the public and, of course, diligent police work provided the first breakthrough. Investigators obtained surveillance videos from a local business along the route that Autumn took that last night leaving the hotel. And what they found on those tapes would break the case wide open and reveal a night of absolute horror. One business's security camera footage captured a terrifying scene in that early morning darkness of May 17th, after Autumn was seen walking away from the hotel. According to Lauderdale County District Attorney Chris Connolly, the video shows Autumn running across Northwood Avenue with her phone in hand, while the headlights of a car appeared close behind her, like it was pursuing her. And moments later, that vehicle, which was identified as Autumn's very own green 2012 Kia Soul, was seen on that footage, striking her and knocking her to the ground. The driver then circles back and hits Autumn a second time, this time seemingly ensuring that she had been fatally injured. They called it a shocking double impact that didn't appear to be an accident at all. And there was Autumn, lying lifeless in the middle of a parking lot. As detectives canvassed the area, they also discovered Autumn's cell phone lying on the ground at the Northwood Avenue scene where the video showed she was run down. Now, finding her cell phone at that spot about 1.5 miles away from the hotel where she had been last seen, that was a grim reminder that something violent had happened there. But of course, Autumn was still missing. Now that they had the surveillance footage and the physical evidence, police were certain they were dealing with a murder, an intentional pedestrian strike. But it seemed to be more than that. The fact that this person was driving Autumn's car made it seem as though there was a motive behind this. The evidence also gave them a suspect and a vehicle to track down. They could see a man with dark hair driving Autumn's Kia Soul. And it wasn't long before the car was found without Autumn inside, abandoned on Helton Drive, about 1.5 miles away from where she had been hit. And by Tuesday, May 20th, investigators had gathered enough evidence to identify and locate a potential suspect. When they reviewed more of that surveillance video, they were shocked to see another vehicle pull up to Autumn's body 30 minutes after she'd been left in that parking lot on Northwood Avenue. This time it was a white pickup truck. It stopped right next to Autumn's body. Someone got out in the darkness and they picked her up and loaded her inside that truck and drove off. It is unbelievable. But the person matched the description of a man who hit Autumn with her car. Police were able to determine that that man driving the truck was 28-year-old Logan Michael Rogers, a Florence resident. He was 6 feet tall and 215 pounds with brown hair and brown eyes. Knowing that time was of the essence, early that Tuesday morning, Florence police officers moved quickly and they obtained an arrest warrant and they descended upon his home at 2238 Wood Avenue, a mere 6-minute drive from the Strickland Hotel. The pickup truck seen on camera was still parked in front of that house. Logan Rogers was arrested and taken into custody, but since Autumn was still missing, Logan was initially charged with attempted murder, pending further investigation. They had no idea whether Autumn was dead or alive at this point, but the way in which she had been struck, they knew it was likely that she had died very quickly after being run over. Logan's bond was initially set at $1 million, and the arrest warrant that I have reads, video evidence supports that Logan Rogers struck the victim twice, and that this act was intentional due to the location and manner in which it was carried out. As soon as his mugshot was posted online, rumors, speculation, and confusion was swirling. Who was he? Did he know Autumn? Why was he driving her car? Why did he hit her? And where was she? It was tough. A lot of people assumed that Logan and Autumn were a couple, but friends of Autumn's quickly came out online to inform the public she was not dating this man. They didn't know who he was. There were other rude comments. Someone asked the family if they could post a picture of Autumn without a beauty filter on her face. Many people came to her defense. They said it was cruel to mention something so petty when a little baby is without their mother. But others said it was merely to get a better picture so they could identify her without the edits. I get it. I do. But it was such an emotional time that I can see how it came off. One of Autumn's friends posted this saying, quote, "Anyone that is asking for unfiltered photos, how dare you? Autumn is a mom of two. One child passed away from brain cancer. She's a beautiful, strong mother. Take your hate and focus on praying for her. Also, look at your photos that are filtered and back off. If you have anything negative to say, you better message me. A little baby girl is missing their mommy, and a mom is missing her daughter." End quote. You can tell the tensions were running high. People were also commenting about knowing Logan. He grew up in that area, and people were shocked to see that he had been arrested in connection with such a heinous crime. Sadly, they didn't even know the rest yet. But one person said, quote, "I grew up going to church camp with Logan. So sad," end quote. Another woman named Kelly said, "I went to school with him from the same town, and I know his family. He hasn't always been like this. He comes from a good Christian family, and he was raised better than this. He was a very sweet guy when I went to school with him, but we're talking 15 years ago. And no one would have imagined this is what he would have come to. He was athletic. He had a good personality, handsome, but he started going downhill years ago. Drugs are evil all the way around and can cause so much harm, grief, and loss. He was running with a lot of the ones that get in trouble with drugs, and it's hard to get them out of it once they're in that crowd. His friends and family are just distraught that he is in this deep. My sincerest condolences and prayers to all of you that knew and loved her. She was beautiful and seemed to be outgoing. She didn't deserve this to happen to her," end quote. And wow, others were still confused in calling Autumn Logan's ex-wife. She, of course, wasn't. And a woman named Becca Lynn posted and said, quote, "The victim is not his ex-wife. His ex-wife and himself rented that house to me and my ex-husband a couple years back, and he stole from us while we were living there," end quote. So this was all so confusing. What was the link between Autumn and Logan? Now, a commenter named Susan said, quote, "There's lots that Logan has done. I hate this for his family. They're good Christian people who don't deserve this," end quote. And someone named Jennifer commented back and said, quote, "I understand your empathy for the embarrassment of his family. There's a whole woman missing. If his family knows where he would hide someone after he messed up again, that would be helpful. Sadly, families are enablers when they sit back and don't warn new supplies of their abuser's past actions with others," end quote. There was a lot going on here. People that knew Logan, as I showed you, were coming forward and saying they can't believe this. Others were praising his poor family and feeling sorry for them, saying that they raised him not to be anything like this and they couldn't imagine he would turn out this way. So you might be wondering, like so many others, who is Logan Rogers? A quick look at his Facebook page, you would see a guy who loves his dogs, hugs his family members while they're in the hospital with a smile on his face, and posts pictures of his parents during Christmas, and poses in front of the Christmas tree at his parents' house. And of course, there are also the cringy pictures of him flexing in the mirror, commenting on his recent workouts, proudly showing off his body. A man that was proud that he had owned his own home with 2 cars outside, a yellow Chevy and a white pickup truck, the same pickup truck linked to this crime. So how can this guy, a father, posting a loving picture of his newborn and his wife, well, his ex-wife at this point, be connected to running down a loving mother? Well, if you move away from his pictures over to his Facebook posts, it paints a much different picture. A series of rants, back to back, about not getting custody of his son and how hateful his ex-wife is. Things like, quote, "I have been kept from seeing my son, and I just found out where my unemployment and government benefit was fraudulently received by my ex-spouse prior to our marriage, as well as she forged my signature in selling herself my property. And it was all found out by receiving court papers from where the judge was giving her everything. Who do I need to contact to have these issues resolved?" End quote. Clearly, there were a lot of things going on behind the scenes, some of which Logan was publicly putting out there. But let's go back. Logan was born on December 1st of 1996 to Mike and Teresa Rogers. He has one sister named Lindsay. And one of Logan's posts on his Facebook is of him and his father, and it looks like they're on one of those water rafting rides. and he was just a little boy at the time. But as he posts this as an adult, he said, quote, "As a son, my role model has always been my father. I always wanted my father to be proud of me, whether it was on the football field, in the classroom, or at work. If you don't know my dad, I can assure you, he has set the standard of being a dad so high. I always known I had one of the best dads in the world. He taught me so many valuable characteristics so that when the day came, I could teach my child. Now, I'm ready for the challenge of being a role model to my little man. Now my priority is making my son proud and being able to instill the same values in him that I have learned from my father. If one day he can say he has the best dad in the world, then all of my efforts will have been worthwhile. Until then, cheers to any competition because I have never settled for being anything less than the best at anything." Underneath this picture and post, people responded by saying that Logan's dad is one of the finest men they know. His own sister commented that their dad was the best. Another said Mike is a good man, a Christian man, an example for all of us, end quote. But then recently people had made mean comments, and rightfully so. People who didn't know this family, and I understand why. This was after Autumn's case became public. One person said he clearly raised a killer. Another said, "Do you think you made your dad proud when you murdered an innocent mother?" End quote. And as much as I understand where this hatred and anger came from, saying that a person raised a murderer is devastating. I understand the judgment. I definitely do. But there were a lot of things intervening between Mike raising his family and Logan choosing to do what he did. And we'll get there. But as you heard, Logan played football. And clearly there were high standards in his life. He wanted to be the best. Sometimes that means a lot of pressure. And I don't doubt his parents were the best and good people. I'm only reiterating what others have commented because I don't know this family. But studying all the cases that I have, there's definitely a correlation between people who feel pressure in life to be the best at things and the cop-out mentality later on. Not to say that his parents are wrong by expecting the best out of their child, because I also think that a participation trophy just by itself isn't good either sometimes. I think there's nothing wrong in instilling perseverance and ambition and things like that in our children. But especially males can feel as though they will never measure up. And that starts to erode their sense of self as they get older. And they realize that maybe they're not equipped personally to be greater than they're able to be. And it can be a slippery slope. You've probably read about this yourself. And many times those type of people will gravitate towards an escape route. A lot of that can be found in things like substances that I can't mention here on YouTube. But I'm sure you can imagine, whether it's something minor or all the way up to illicit substances. They become not exactly the same person that a parent raised if they get involved in all that. The misuse and continual use of substances, that erodes their personality. They're not who they really are. Now, this is not an excuse for them becoming a monster, but it's a reason that people can become shocked that they thought they knew someone that does something so out of character. And we already saw some of those posts from friends who said he got into using substances and it changed him. We're going to get into more of that later. But Logan attended Hamilton High School in Hamilton, Alabama, and Logan played on the boys' varsity football team. He was number 5, 5'10" and 152 pounds in 2013. There was even a write-up about him. It said that Logan would move from tailback to fullback after rushing for 655 yards and getting 9 touchdowns in 2013. The article featured a picture of Logan, which he shared to his Facebook. He looks athletic, determined, and focused. He also showed a number of pictures of himself and his teammates out on the field during their games. Logan, a team player at the time, popular with the girls in his school. He went to church camp and had a circle of supportive and close friends. This is a boy who posted pictures of his grandpa's Bible on his Instagram and would call his sister beautiful, would go on brother and sister dinner dates together, and was so proud of his family and who he was. Now, I do have to mention he was a hunter, so he would also post pictures of dead animals on his Instagram, which personally rubs me the wrong way, but I do understand to some that is a sport. So I try not to categorize this action as something negative, the fact that they can so easily shoot and kill an innocent creature, but I just know that some people don't have that in them. I certainly don't. So I'm just going to file that under capable of killing things. But he does love dogs. But everything else just makes you question how things went so wrong. How did he end up behind bars accused of murdering someone? But if you don't think Logan was already spiraling during high school, all you have to do is look at his Twitter post from 2014, where he says, "I always feel like it's my fault. Not being able to sleep because you can't clear your mind is painful," or "I hate this town." And peppered in between were things like, "Why can't I ever be happy? I feel just as unimportant as a white crayon." And then there were the more cryptic posts, like, quote, "If only you knew, really knew," end quote. Or, "At the end of the day, my mind begins to travel. Some roads cross at more than one point." Or, "I am so weird." But I wonder what Logan was thinking about when his mind was traveling. But by October 23rd of 2014, he was thinking about marijuana. At least he posted about it. He said it was cheaper than a therapist. But it seems like Logan could have probably used a therapist instead of ranting on Twitter. Because from what I could tell, after high school, Logan seemed to have lost his purpose in life. Now he was working and he looked like he was looking forward to things, but then there would be posts like, quote, "I wish I had the opportunity to strap up for a high school playoff game tonight. Those memories will never be forgotten," end quote. And I understand all of us reminisce about our high school days, but some people really do peak in high school. That's not just me saying something cliche. I know you've probably heard that so many times before, but it seems like Logan tried to start college, but that was short lived. And by 2017, he was making his very last posts on Twitter, a place that he used to vent daily, multiple times a day. On April 14th, he retweeted a post that said, "Lord, I wonder if I'll ever change my ways." And then 10 days later, he posted, "No one deserves to feel unworthy." That same day, he said in his very last post, "People are so fake. Integrity is so undervalued." And that was the end of his time on Twitter. His new social media preference was Instagram and a little bit on Facebook, where he would showcase his husky, his family, their big, beautiful house, and things he was thankful for, like his motorcycle, or a trip he was taking his dad on for Christmas vacation to Atlanta to watch Alabama take on Washington. He said he wanted to do something special for his dad that year. That was December 24th of 2016, only a few months before he abandoned Twitter altogether. After this, it seemed like his life consisted of playing with his dogs, taking pictures of his cherished white Toyota Tacoma, riding on his ATV, and showcasing a bunch of money and a brand new watch. These posts spanned from 2016 all the way to 2021 and beyond. And by the looks of it, he owned his own company, a house, and 2 nice cars. He was an entrepreneur, maintaining yards, mowing, and landscaping, things like that. It was also that year that he started dating the woman who would go on to become his wife and the mother of his young son, who she gave birth to in 2023. Although I do know her name, I'm going to keep it private. I don't think this woman deserves to be a part of anything that happened next. But she studied at the University of North Alabama in Florence and eventually became an accountant. She was involved in church, posted positive scripture verses on her Facebook, and was gearing up for her wedding to Logan in 2022. He would also post constantly positive things about how much he loved her, and he commented about how they met back in 2016 when they were both doing homework together. But soon, Logan Rogers would be behind bars, and his wife wanted nothing to do with him. This was before Autumn Strickland went missing and was presumed dead. Logan had seen the inside of a prison cell before all this. In his words, because of some weed. Logan posted after he got out of prison. Logan talked about it. He said he was confronted by an officer for the possession of marijuana when he was 20 years old at Walmart. He was arrested, but he said he had no weed on him. However, he spent 3 years in prison. And I'm thinking, I don't think they would have made that decision if it wasn't warranted. But later, when he was talking about this experience, he said, "At age 27, I got pulled over again with weed, and I gave it to the officer when he came to my window. He and I left in different vehicles, and both were capable of seeing our families the next day." What Logan was saying, and these are his words, is that if they made it legal and could sell it to anyone in a gas station, then I shouldn't have to be considered a felon, because being a felon means I'm going to react to certain situations way differently than I would not being a felon. Felons are not treated normal. It would be absurd to expect a felon to act normal. Trust me when I say, prison wasn't designed for someone to be able to get out and stay out easily. I can't get 3 years back, but they can take a felony off someone's record. What he's posting about after the fact is he's talking about how the laws have changed. And if the law changed now, well, he's wondering why he should still be called a felon if it's no longer illegal the way it used to be. That's what I think he's trying to get at. But here's the thing. Regardless, Logan Rogers was a dangerous person. He had been arrested multiple times after he got out of prison for things like public intoxication, and his wife at the time getting a restraining order against him. He was bound to his home through an ankle monitor on probation, and he wasn't allowed to see his son being born on January 10th of 2023, things that he would openly complain about on his Facebook, acting like he was a victim who was just trying to change his life around, reporting that his ex-wife was keeping their child away from him, rightfully so. Because as I stated, Logan Rogers is a dangerous person. Just ask his parents. Before he was arrested for running over Autumn Strickland, he was placed in jail for domestic violence regarding his own parents. This was in January of this year, 2025, for terroristic threats against his parents, Teresa and Mike. He allegedly threatened to kill them. His own mother got a protective order against him, and she gave a historical account of his threats and the fear that she was in. She said, quote, "I never know from one minute till the next how he will be. The least little thing sets him off. I'm physically and mentally traumatized," end quote. If his own parents weren't safe, who was? Clearly not Autumn Strickland. But Logan was looking for a victim before Autumn, and he would prowl right outside of the university grounds in downtown Florence looking for an attractive female that he could approach, using various ways to lure them to come home with him. And like I said, sometimes people peak in high school. Logan was used to getting what he wanted: beautiful prom dates, girls smiling in photos next to him in the cafeteria, or being on the football field and feeling like a god. Combine that mentality with substances and a narcissistic mindset, he felt like women owed him something. And that's a recipe for disaster. Now I'm going to get back to this, because at the time that Autumn was still missing, no one knew Logan was preying on university students and other women in Florence. But this video I'm about to show you was taken from a University of North Alabama student named Trinity Bradley. She was out one night and on her way back to her dorm room when she had an encounter with Logan Rogers, who she thought at the time was just a fellow student. He pulled up next to her in his truck and rolled down the window, asked her if she would be able to let him use her phone. Logan told her he was low on gas and he just needed to make one phone call. But as soon as she came up to his window, he admitted to Trinity that he only stopped her because he thought she was attractive and wanted to get her number. Trinity was now feeling uncomfortable at this point, and she said, "I'm sorry, I'm not interested." And as she turned to leave, not expecting what would happen next, he got out of his truck, came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her, insisting he really just needed a hug. How terrifying. He was a complete stranger, and luckily, Trinity was able to break free. But at that point, she started to panic. What was this man's intention? She felt that he had definitely crossed a boundary with her. She started running towards the staircase of her dorm, with Logan following close behind her. And this young woman had the wherewithal in that moment to grab her phone, put it in the waistband of her pants, and start recording a video. It is chilling what she captured. I'm going to play it for you, and then I will tell you what he is saying.
I swear, take a chance and let me show you some stuff.
Show me what?
Take the time to go with me to the house and just sit down and us talk. Let me show you everything that I know.
No, I can't do that. I don't know who you are. And I wouldn't recommend touching women again.
What?
I wouldn't recommend doing this.
I just moved back.
I know, but you came up to me and you grabbed me and you wouldn't let me go. I wouldn't recommend doing that.
I'm sure you get the context of what's happening here. This is right outside of Trinity's dorm room. It is dark. You can see some lights outside, and you can even see the staircase that she was trying to climb up when he's following behind her. He said to her, "I swear, take a chance and let me show you something."
I swear, take a chance and let me show you some stuff.
She says, "Show me what?"
Show me what?
And he says, "Take the time to go with me to the house and just sit down. Let's talk. Let me show you everything that I know."
Take the time to go with me to the house and just sit down and us talk. Let me show you everything that I know.
No, I can't do that.
At this point, she is protesting. She's saying, "No, I can't do that." Telling the stranger, "I don't know who you are."
I don't know who you are.
And it's creepy. Trinity turns around, and as she made her way up those stairs to her dorm, she tells Logan, "I wouldn't recommend touching women again."
And I wouldn't recommend touching women again.
He's like, "Say what?" And she repeats, "I wouldn't recommend doing this."
I wouldn't recommend doing this.
I just moved back.
And to me, it seems like he said something along the lines of, "I just moved back here." And she's like, "I know. But it's like you came up to me and you grabbed me and wouldn't let me go. I wouldn't recommend doing that."
I know, but you came up to me and you grabbed me and you wouldn't let me go. I wouldn't recommend doing that.
And you can kind of hear him say, "I was giving you a hug." Now, this is 3 weeks before Autumn encountered Logan around the same area where Trinity was confronted by him. He was clearly on the prowl again. And Autumn, just like Trinity, didn't even know Logan. Although we can't know exactly what transpired outside in that parking lot as Autumn walked to her car, we can imagine it was something similar to this situation. Authorities believe as she was making her way to her car, somehow Logan might have convinced her to give him a ride home. We know he was using ploys like, "Can I use your phone? I ran out of gas." So maybe Autumn considered that. Or maybe he just made a move, she resisted, and he attacked her and grabbed the keys to her car and then chased her down and ran her over twice before fleeing and abandoning it. And in a now eerie tweet, Logan once posted, quote, "I'm not the type to be ran over," end quote. But apparently he's the type that runs someone over and leaves them to die. He was already awaiting trial for the charges against him relating to threatening to kill his parents, allegedly. And now it was attempted murder. And while Logan was being held at the Lauderdale County Detention Center, officers executed a search warrant on his property where he was living. Now, I have to say, the pictures of the outside of his home, it looks very different to the one he posted on Facebook just a couple years before this. Now, it looks run down and haunting. There's like an old tire outside, a door frame that's broken, and it looks like there's nothing inside his house. But it's especially creepy knowing what was found on the premises, a burn barrel. And when they looked inside, there was evidence that there had been a fire in that barrel at some point, and that fire was used to destroy a human body. Because under further investigation, human remains were found in the bottom of that burn barrel. This was not the outcome that anyone wanted or expected. Autumn was still missing, and now there was a high likelihood that this was her body inside of that burn barrel. Florence Police Department held a press conference that same day on May 20th, and here is what was presented to the public.
Good evening. My name is Jason Ford, and I'm the captain of the Criminal Investigation Division at Florence Police Department. I want to provide you an important update into the investigation of the missing person, Autumn Strickland. Earlier this afternoon, detectives discovered human remains at a residence in the 2200 block of Northwood Avenue. This is the same residence where early this morning our suspect, Logan Rogers, was taken into custody. Based on this discovery, his charges have been upgraded to murder. He's being held without bond pending an Annaeus law hearing. He is still currently in the Lauderdale County Detention Center. Those remains will be sent to a forensics lab to be analyzed for proper identification. I want to commend our detectives for their tireless work throughout this entire case, and also for the continued support and assistance from the community.
They had to have forensics confirm the identity of those remains, but everyone already knew the truth. Logan had not only run over this beautiful, innocent mother who lost her child due to cancer and was now becoming a mother for the second time and happy in her life, but he took her back to his house and he burned her body. 2 days later, on May 22nd, her friend from back in Florida, Lindsay Maldonado, did an interview with the news. She said she had just spoken to Autumn a month ago and said she was ready to move back to Florida after spending 2 years in Alabama. But this is what else Lindsay had to say.
Just devastated. It sounds like a Dateline or Crime Junkie episode, but it's my friend. You know, it's not right. Just happy, silly. You could always call Autumn, you know, like she was just always fun, very easy to be around and have fun with. She loved horseback riding, the beach, boating, everything that South Florida has to offer. She was about it.
Maldonado says Strickland had a son who passed away from cancer, but a few years later she welcomed her daughter into the world, and Maldonado has strong words for whoever killed that little girl's mother.
You're heartless. And you really deserve to be done to you what you did to her. It seems like just punishment.
What a monster. And at this point, DA Chris Connolly said there was no known connection or relationship between Logan and Autumn. By all accounts, they were strangers, and this made this crime baffling and frightening, especially to the public. It seemed like a random act of violence perpetrated against a woman who simply happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. It also meant investigators had to work from scratch to figure out how and why he targeted Autumn. Those answers were still elusive, as Logan was led away in handcuffs as he maintained his silence. Now, there are details from court documents that I obtained from Alabama trial records, which explain the video evidence and the police affidavits, and they helped investigators reconstruct what they believe happened to Autumn in those early morning hours of May 17th. According to the criminal complaint, Logan Rogers was allegedly driving Autumn's 2012 Kia Soul on the 1600 block of Northwood Avenue, approximately 1.5 miles from the Strickland Hotel where Autumn had been earlier. It appeared to authorities that something caused Autumn to flee from her own vehicle. They stated perhaps it was an argument or a sudden attack, because surveillance footage showed her running across Northwood Avenue in a panic while the Kia was driving after her. Then Logan allegedly struck Autumn with her car, knocking her down. Then he turned around, drove at her again, running her over for a second time. They stated in this complaint that the deliberate manner of this double impact led them to believe it was an intentional act of murder, not a hit-and-run accident. In fact, the DA described this video evidence, which I have not seen yet. It's still pending a FOIA request right now, but I have submitted one, that it shows Logan Rogers running Strickland over with her own car in front of a local business and then coming back to inflict more harm. The records state that Autumn likely died almost immediately from her injuries. But Logan Rogers' actions that night did not end there. He didn't call for help or even remain at the scene. Instead, he fled, driving away in her car, then leaving it at a random location to avoid suspicion. Now without a car, he allegedly called someone he knew for a ride or found another way back to his house, where he picked up his truck. Interestingly, this isn't the first time the Logan has reached out publicly asking for a ride somewhere. His last post on Facebook on March 3rd of 2025 at 6:49 p.m. asked, quote, "Anyone in Hamilton I could pay for a ride," end quote. Well, that early morning, someone must have said yes to that same question 2 months later after Logan ran Autumn down. Because according to these investigators, roughly 30 minutes after the fatal incident, Logan returned to the scene. This time driving his pickup truck, he retrieved Autumn's body, and under the cover of the night, he loaded her remains into his truck. But after Autumn's body was in the back of his truck, Logan drove back to his own residence on Northwood Avenue, the same property where he would be later arrested. And for a couple days, Autumn's ultimate fate still remained unknown. She was just missing. And Logan was in custody for her attempted murder because no body had been found. But that changed on May 20th, like I explained, when Florence police executed that search warrant. In the backyard of that property, that is where they made the discovery: a burn barrel containing human remains. Charred human remains inside that container that were believed to be Autumn Strickland's. They were immediately sent to a forensic laboratory for DNA testing, and there would be an autopsy to confirm the cause of death. Even though there was no forensic confirmation, authorities were confident enough that it was Autumn. They upgraded Logan Rogers' charge from attempted murder to murder. This missing persons case became a homicide investigation, and outside Logan's home, there was crime scene tape. Forensic teams were combing the area, and they collected the burn barrel and its contents. Any traces of blood or DNA inside of his truck and his house, and other potential evidence. Neighbors in this normally quiet neighborhood were looking on in shock. The idea that a woman's body had been burned just yards away from their homes was too much for them to process. And of course, Autumn's tragic death deeply affected everyone who knew her. Her family and friends took to social media to mourn her and call for justice in her name, vowing to keep her memory alive as the case proceeded. There was one neighbor that recounted how he looked over at her house, and she had been working on a project where she was fixing a door, and now the screen door was just propped up on her porch. And when he looked at it, all it brought him was sadness. And something else that I found so sad was that in an ironic twist, the same friend, Nico, who posted the GoFundMe to help Autumn's son Lane's cancer treatment, now created a GoFundMe to assist in helping Autumn's mother, Lisa, care for her now 2-year-old daughter. It is just so heartbreaking. And Nico wrote, "Please help support Aspen after an unimaginable loss." Quote, "Our hearts are shattered as we share the devastating news of the loss of sweet Autumn, a loving mother, daughter, and friend. 8 years ago, Autumn lost her first child, Lane, to a brain tumor. Lane was her world, and the pain of his passing was unimaginable. But then came Aspen, her rainbow baby. Aspen brought light, laughter, and healing back into Autumn's life. Autumn was finally happy again, full of love and purpose as she raised her precious little girl. But now, heartbreak has struck once more. Autumn was tragically taken from us far too soon, killed by a stranger in a senseless act that has left our entire community devastated. Aspen, now just 2 years old, is left without her mother and her only sibling. She is being lovingly cared for by Autumn's mother, Lisa, in Alabama, but the emotional and financial toll of this loss is overwhelming. We're asking for your help. Any donation, no matter how small, will go directly towards supporting Aspen's future. We want to ease the financial burden for this grieving family and surround Aspen with the love and support she deserves. If you cannot donate, please consider sharing this page and keeping Aspen and her family in your prayers. We know Autumn would be so grateful to see her baby girl surrounded by kindness and compassion in this time of unimaginable grief. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts, end quote. Now, this is a message for all of you from me. I would love it if we could get this GoFundMe to its goal. And if you can't do anything financially, I would just ask you to please share the link, whether that's on your Instagram stories, on your Facebook, right here on YouTube. There is a post aspect if you have the community post section. As a parent myself, it's devastating when I hear about cases like this, especially when I have to research cases like this, and I know all of the devastating details. Autumn was more than just a name and a headline. She was a mother, a neighbor, a friend, a daughter, and a sister. She was an innocent human being who couldn't escape the evil man. He is a monster, and now her young child faces a future without her mother. But wait, I have more to tell you, because there have been developments. The following day, on May 21st, 2025, Logan Rogers was brought before a judge in Lauderdale County for an initial appearance and bond hearing. The prosecutors argued, because of the facts of this case, how horrific they were, that he should not be released on bail. And Judge Will Motlow agreed. He formally denied bond, ordering that Logan Rogers be held in jail because he posed a potential danger to the community. The judge wrote, quote, "Due to the brutal nature of the alleged offense and the defendant's history of domestic violence, the court finds no conditions or set of conditions can adequately ensure the safety of the public," end quote. To me, this strong statement not only keeps him behind bars, but it also highlights the court's view of this man as a threat because of both his current allegations and his past behavior. And the district attorney, Chris Connolly, has indicated that his office is assessing whether capital murder charges might actually be appropriate in this case. In Alabama, a murder can be elevated to a capital offense when certain circumstances apply. For example, if it involves kidnapping, occurs during another felony like robbery, or is especially heinous, and I would believe this would be. The sheer brutality of this alleged desecration of a body definitely means that the maximum charges could possibly be put against him, and I think they should be. But when all of this was going on, Trinity Bradley, that student I told you about, and that video I showed you, still hadn't been shown to the public. It wasn't even known. It was just last month when Trinity Bradley came forward after seeing Logan's mugshot in the news, and she was shocked. She then remembered the encounter that she recorded on her phone that night in front of her dorm building. She immediately went to the police. And this is her recounting that night in her own words to the media.
Calls out to me and says, "Hey, can I borrow your phone? I'm low on gas. Just need to call somebody."
But then his tone changed.
He told me he didn't call me over there because he needed my phone, but I thought you were attractive and I wanted to get your number. And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not interested."
Bradley says she then turned away and the man came up behind her.
That's when he got out of his truck and then he wrapped his arms around me and told me that he really needed a hug. So I kind of broke free from that, but I started to panic because I feel like he crossed a boundary.
She broke free from the man and then headed towards the staircase to get to her dorm. She caught the next interaction on her phone, with it recording while tucked in her waistband. Florence Police Department confirmed with me that the man in the video is Logan Rogers, who was charged with the murder of Autumn Strickland 3 weeks after this encounter.
Now looking in hindsight, I think it was like a ploy to get women to go with him, but obviously it just kind of creeped me out, so I still was backing away. I'm like, "I'm sorry, I can't go with you." He did finally just walk away and back off, and I used that chance to walk up the stairs.
When she made it to her dorm, Bradley filed a police report. Florence police tell me they sent a bolo out on Rogers' truck, but was unable to locate him that night. Police asked if she wanted to press charges, but Bradley told me she thought Rogers was having a mental health episode, so she told officers no. A few weeks later, she saw the same man's face on social media. Logan Rogers, charged with crimes involving a missing woman, Autumn Strickland.
I looked at the mugshot and then compared it to my picture. And I didn't even have to compare it. Like, I just immediately knew. And it had the same, he told me his first name and he had the same first name. And it was like, it was just a surreal moment, because in that moment that it happened to me, I was scared, but then that just took it to a whole different level of like, wow, I escaped something so much worse than I could have even imagined.
Bradley tells me she feels lucky, but felt like she could have saved Autumn's life.
I know it wasn't necessarily in my control that somebody did get murdered and I didn't, but it definitely made me feel like I could have pursued it further so he could have gotten caught, that night, or maybe he wouldn't have continued on to do what he did. But my immediate thought when I did call the police was that he's not going to stop at this.
This showed Logan's motive when it came to females walking in downtown Florence at night. It is now abundantly clear that Logan Rogers had the intent to bring these women forcefully back to his house. What he intended to do once they were there will never be known, but the fact that he would put his hands on a stranger, a student, a young woman that was just walking to her dorm room that night, it shows where his mentality was. He's a predator. Now, I don't know what your thoughts are when you watch that video, but to me, he looks unhinged. He looks unstable. I don't know if he is on some kind of substance. I'm not really sure, but he doesn't have to be in order to act this way. And I am sure he will most likely undergo a psychological evaluation. He does have counsel at this point. And a preliminary hearing is now scheduled for July 14th, at which point a judge will review the evidence in this case to determine if it should go to a grand jury for indictment. Now, I know a lot of you don't know that I do have a second channel on YouTube, and it's all about cases like this one, current cases that are ongoing. I cover trials, I do recaps, and I do it all live. It's so that you can be there to share your thoughts as these cases unfold. So if you're interested in following this case, I will be talking about it further on that channel, and I will link that in the cards and below. I think it is so important to bring these cases forward, to talk about them, to warn the public about monsters like Logan Rogers. Now, the day before that preliminary hearing is set, there will be a celebration of life for Autumn on July 13th. This is just a few days away. This will be in Florida, and I truly hope that we will see justice for her. I really do. Logan Rogers remains incarcerated at the Lauderdale County Detention Center, and if he is convicted of capital murder, he could face the harshest punishment under Alabama law, and I hope he does, which include the death penalty. For now, he's formally charged with murder, but there could be additional charges like abuse of a corpse for the burning of a body. Those could be filed as well. We have to wait and see. I'm truly hoping that he is indicted, that this case moves forward, that there will be a trial. But of course, I want to know what your thoughts are. Leave them below in the comments and I will get to as many as I possibly can. But thank you so much for being here for Autumn's case. I will see you in my next video. Bye.